Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Gene Girdley along with Ted Ings. And next is another great panel moderated by our good friend, Ed Roberts.
That's right, Gene. A while back, Ed Roberts and I were talking about the upcoming Tire Summit, and we wanted to put together a panel on warranty. And we thought, who better than Steve Reiter over at Warranty Processing in Chicago to help us put together a panel of experts and to help lead the subject. So, Ed, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. Ed Roberts, everyone, the Fixed Ops Director at Bozard Ford Lincoln down in St. Augustine, Florida.
Thank you, Gene. Thank you, Ted. And I have a group of rock stars here today. And let me run through and introduce them real quick. I have Steve Reiter. He's the owner and operator at Warranty Processing, Inc. I have Shon Kingrey, Fixed Operations Director, Corporate Fixed Operations Director at Step One Automotive Group. David Henson, President of Warranty Matters. Tom Druzynski, Director of Service Operations at Herr Automotive Group. Sarah Vantine, last but not least, Fixed and Variable BDC Director at Scott Clark Automotive Group. And it's great to be able to put together a warranty processing panel because that is cash flow to the service department. And it is the biggest customer that we have in any of our service departments is our manufacturer. And that starts with obviously at write-up and proper documentation to get the ball rolling. And nobody better to tell us about that than Sarah Vantine.
Well, thank you so much, Ed. So really to kick it all off, I mean, your appointment process is really how your service department is going to make sure that from the moment that you're inputting the information and booking that customer appointment, that's going to set the stage for the rest of the process. And especially in appointments, it's very important to make sure that your scheduler that you have is utilized correctly. With our store, so we use Xtime for our appointment scheduling software. Xtime actually goes all the way through into the lane and the shop process. And so from the back end side of our scheduler, we input every opcode code identical to how we have it in our DMS. And that's a critical component for the warranty processing part because you want to make sure that you're utilizing the right opcodes for the right service that the customer is coming in for. So with our BDC, it's important to train them on just how to think about that appointment when a customer is calling in. And, a perfect example is something like recalls. With the manufacturers, there are so many very specific nuances with how those recalls have to be performed. In many cases, there's very specific technicians that have to perform those recalls. And so it's important when you're going through the setup process to mirror the same expectations that the manufacturer has with how you're inputting those opcodes and how you're structuring your scheduler. So for our stores, what we do is we structure it based on the shop capacity and instead of just booking the appointment by the advisor. So when a customer calls in and we recognize that they have an open recall, maybe they have a tire concern, maybe whatever the nature of the concern is, if there's potentially a warranty element with it, we want to make sure that our team utilizes that correct opcode and then books it in the appropriate capacity. What that's going to do is then it's going to set up the right expectation for the service advisor. When the advisor goes and pulls that appointment over, all of those opcodes are already preloaded. So they can go ahead and spot check that. There's not a whole lot of work where the advisor has to go back and then make the corrections to that appointment. And so that's an important step to help the advisor, get through that piece of it. And then it just sets up the rest of the process when it comes to writing up the customer and then the technician doing their part.
Absolutely. And service is all about having the right structure in place. When the right structure is in place, it allows you to follow through with the right process. If you start missing some of those elements, that's when cash flow becomes a key in processing warranty. So thank you for your time, Sarah. I may circle back to you here in a few minutes, but I want to bring Tom on and talk about 3 C's because that is ultimately key to making sure that we provide the manufacturer with all the information that they want to see, what caused it, what can we do to prevent it from happening again, and then some of the other elements that goes along with that. Welcome, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. 100% correct. I mean, you spend a lot of time bringing that money in and making sure that you can process that warranty. But I've been lucky enough to have been through audits on the dealer side with many different major manufacturers. And I can tell you that every time they're going to find something. So making sure that you have a tight process. If you're not the one inspecting your warranty repair paperwork every day, somebody outside of yourself that's looking at it. The biggest things, again, 3 C's, like you said, that claim, those auditors, when they come in, that claim has to be able to stand on its own. So they need to be able to take your paperwork, read it from top to bottom, and have an understanding of exactly what's happening. Did your advisor get the right information from the customer? Did they just, list it, customer states there's a noise? Do they even have the customer states line on the repair order or the proper verbiage for that manufacturer? So making sure that you or you have somebody assigned to go through that paperwork and just do spot checks. I'm sure everybody's familiar with the phrase inspect what you expect. You have these processes laid down, and you can't just say, okay, they're running and think that they're perfect, because like I said, those manufacturers, they're going to find something in every case when they send that audit team in. So that claim has to be able to stand on its own, clear customer complaint. Your technician stories have to be on point. What did they do? What did they test? What were the readings? Making sure that they're not rubber stamping the readings. We had a manufacturer that one of the things that they looked at was a particular repair. We were heavy on a replacement versus a repair. And the readings all were measuring the same. They were showing the same reading. So it triggered a red flag with them. Turns out that when that pipe is plugged, that's the pressure reading you're going to get every time. But it just goes to show that the manufacturers are taking deeper looks into your data. They know if it's the same reading every time. They know if you're just rubber stamping that repair to get the extra couple of tenths. So making sure as a manager that you're taking a look as well, and you know what's going through there. So what tests were done, and then ultimately what was the repair? What exactly did you do? Specific with wiring diagrams, documents, all of the different things now that you're required to have printed out and attached to repair orders. Are they all there? Are the signatures there? One-time use components. Right now, every manufacturer has their own, sort of thing that they're looking for, and those one-time use components, the bolts. You got to take a cab off of a Ford. All of the bolts get replaced. Everything gets replaced. Steering lock nuts. Most manufacturers now, it's a one-time use component. If it's not there, well, they're gonna find it. And finally, when you're going through that process, one of the other easier things to check that's big on their list is the clock time, the punch time for your technicians. Are they clocked on when they said they were working on the vehicle? Did they clock off when they were done? Did they run W time? Did they run or Z time? Whatever your manufacturer requires. Is there a separate punch, and is that punch documented? Every single one of those time punches, you should know what they were doing from this time to this time. That should be firmly documented on your paperwork. And minor things to check for. Spend a couple of minutes a week to pull 20 repair orders. Go through them with a magnifying glass. Save yourself a ton of money in the long run.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that the manufacturer looks for when they're doing an off-site audit or on-site is the overlapping clock times. Is the technician working on multiple vehicles at the same time and that kind of stuff. And you mentioned earlier on about being lucky enough to go through some audits. I'm not sure if that's a lucky thing or not. I'm not sure how many people in our audience will think that's very lucky.
It's amazing the lottery systems that they use, that you just happen to win the lottery from time to time with some of those.
Right. But all of what we're talking about is great process that drives good CP as well. And CP is non-chargeable. And that's constant cash flow. So when you do the right things here, it drives to the other. But the lucky enough for an audit, that kind of drives right into our next guest. And David helps a lot of dealers with dealers that are about to go into an audit, just came out of one and want to prevent from going into another. David, tell us a little bit about what a dealer goes through going through an audit.
Well, thank you, Ed. Again, it's pretty much as Tom said here. They're looking at anything and everything. It's going to take up a lot of your time. It's going to take a lot of your resources, because it's all hands on deck. Pulling files, reprinting, in case if you scan, for example. But as of right now, what they're doing, most manufacturers, because of the COVID pandemic, most manufacturers are limiting the travel of their auditors. So they're doing what I refer to as electronic audits, having dealers scan repair orders and send them in. There are various levels of this. Some of these manufacturers are still, it's like a full-blown audit. They're asking for 100 VIN folders. that take some time to just get together. Some others are just doing a 15 to 18 claims at a time. That's pretty simple. But in every case, what I see, these are not low-level audits. Everything's on the table. As Tom said, it's just like they were in your store to begin with. But in every case, when you're doing these electronic audits, you have an opportunity to look at these claims before you send them in. And unfortunately, I see some dealers that just put them together and upload them and without giving it another thought. And that's always going to result in chargebacks. Like Tom said, they're going to find something. Nobody's perfect, but you can minimize your exposure. So before you upload these to anybody, get together with service manager, warranty administrator, and go over them. Go over them for compliance, because again, everything's on the table. Make sure they're legible. I see this so often. People just scan and like it's a mindless process, but it cut off the signature, a customer signature. You left a sticky note on covering up an approval or something of that nature, some important information. So make sure they're legible. Make sure your signatures and approvals are in place. A dark highlighter will sometimes make something illegible. So I encourage people to only use a yellow highlighter in the warranty office. Take away your blue and your greens. They don't copy well. They don't scan well. Make sure you have all your documents there. If you had to do an alignment, you got to have the alignment printout. If you transmission R&R, steering gear, whatever the case may be, you still got to have the alignment sheet if you're going to claim the time for doing that. If you don't, they're subject to say, well, this is an improper repair. You didn't align it after you didn't reset the toe. So make sure you've got that printout. Any diagnostic trouble code printouts that are required, they've got to be there right along with with everything that is as if they were in your store to begin with. Ensure all the dates and times coincide with the repair. That's getting into what Tom was talking about, your sublet invoices. I've seen those dated 3 or 4 days before the RO was even open. That's going to be a problem. So make sure all that matches up, or you got an explanation of why it doesn't. If there was a bulletin that applied at that particular time and that particular repair, it needs to be there because bulletins change, repair processes change. So if you had technical assistance involved, you need to make sure that note is on there that they told you to do something, because these auditors have a means of going and see, is that really what tax said to do? Do they say to make this repair? And finally, to wrap my end up here, it's not just these. You're being audited every day, whether it's a warranty part return or just the people looking at your claims, applying wholesale approval. They're looking at your claims. They're looking at them for compliance. So you're being audited from every angle, every day, whether you know it or not.
Absolutely. And stay with me just a minute there, David. I got a couple of questions for you. So since COVID, you said that they're doing a lot of remote audits. Was that something that was not being done prior to COVID? Was it on site mostly?
Most were, yes. For example, GM had started doing a couple of years ago, but they were just in small samples. In June of this year, they sent out 400 electronic audits. They call them MORs, mail out reviews. Just last month, they sent out another 400. So, and it's taken them several months. These are the corporate auditors that are looking at this. It's not your regional people. So they are taking these things and printing them out and issuing debits. They will call you back and tell you what's going on, send you it's a full-blown audit report. In GM's case, it's only 12 to 18 claims. Some of these other manufacturers are, I had a Nissan dealer earlier this year. They got hit for $35,000. So the money's out there and the money's on the table, and they'll take it.
Right. And one of the first things they're going to look at is comebacks. That you charge them for multiple repairs on the same issue. That's one of the first things that highlights it to them. Appreciate your insight there, David. Bring a wealth of knowledge to us. I'm going to shift over to Shon a little bit, and I think Shon's got a little bit of a story. We all have warranty administrators when we do warranty in-house, and they got vacation, they got to do other things, but in those elements, we still have to have that cash flow. Still got to keep coming through the door. We still have to process it, because a lot of times we have days that were numbered or held to get stuff handled, stuff paid. And I think Shon went through some personnel issues where he had to work through it. And tell us a little bit about that, Shon.
Sure. Thanks, Ed. So for us, we're a group in 3 years that grew from 4 stores to 14 stores. And in that time, like we find in my 25 plus years of doing this, the warranty administrators forget who they work for. They forget they work for us and not for the manufacturers. And it became such a big deal in our group that we weren't getting claims paid. They would sit in RA status for approval. I started talking to Peter at WPI probably weeks leading into it. Literally how the whole thing rolled out was I called Peter on a Friday and said, hey, I'm going to make a business decision here and we're going to change. Peter agreed that he would fly in on Sunday. Then a person named Stephen, who might be on their screen right now, COVID kicked off that weekend. Literally, they couldn't travel. So we went from going from an in-house warranty administrator who had a crew of 3 with her over 14 stores to on Monday, remotely launching WPI, literally, without a flaw. We do a warranty review. We call it the 5 no's. One of the no's is warranty. We do it every Thursday. Peter and I go over the schedule every Tuesday. We've been doing it all morning today. And I'm under 2% receivable as a group. And literally, if you want every hiccup that should have happened, Peter couldn't fly. We didn't have the scanners in place because we were going to do that on Monday. We didn't miss a beat. We didn't miss receivables. Cash flow is everything. And I'm not just saying this because this is a WPI panel. I could not and I would not go backwards. And trust me, when I tell you I had the service managers in the group who are the old school, oh, I need my person in-house, I need this. There is not a manager in my group that would go backwards at this point for any price, any dollar amount.
So I didn't know that she was the warranty administrator for all 14 stores. So
yeah, she oversaw it because as we grew, she came with the group that we purchased originally, the original 4 stores, and I had her overseeing the group. And ultimately, as we acquired other stores, the other employees started working for her. Right. And those employees are, other than the warranty administrator herself, are still employed. They're doing the scanning and the checking and the corrections. And again, I can go down the list of what, the 3 C's, the stories, the times, the comments, the missing alignment specs, stuff like that WPI requires. They're still doing that. But no, she was over the whole group.
And with moving out to an outside source, you don't have the personnel issue and any of that kind of stuff. No, I'm pretty certain you probably hadn't written Stephen up for not getting warranty processed, right?
Yes, correct. Yes, we're not there yet.
All right. Thank you, Shon.
Of course.
That brings me to Stephen. Steve, owner and operator, Warranty Processing, Inc. I've known you now for a couple of years and heard nothing but similar stories to what Shon tells us this morning. And tell us a little bit about what you do and just tell us who you are and what you do and how you can help.
Well, yeah. Thanks, Ed, and thanks, Shon, for the plug there. I mean, we really appreciate you as a customer, and we're always going to do our best to take care of you as well. Yeah, we process warranty claims for about 285 rooftops right now. Have helped thousands of dealers, of course, over 5 decades that we've been processing warranty claims here. We handle 14 different DMS systems and 23 different manufacturers. So we've added a lot over the years. We kind of consider ourselves not just claims processors, but we also do consulting work as well. Mainly, like when we set up the dealership, prior to COVID, and of course we'll go back to it again once we get rolling. We establish relationships with the whole dealership. We'll work with your technicians, your service advisors, the managers, office personnel, everybody that needs to be involved, because the money, as stated by everybody else here, is people don't realize how much money is driven through warranty. And we work with consulting, not only just setting up the dealership, but also through our comprehensive reports. As we're processing the claims, we'll send you reports on the claims that are missing things, and it's not just the dealership in general. It will be you'll be able to focus down on the particular employee. So like if you have a technician who might be weak at time punches or not filling out a diagnostic repair properly, not giving the proper documentation, anything like that, you're going to be able to pinpoint who that individual is. The same thing with your advisors. You'll be able to find out, where people are missing signatures and be able to coach them into doing a better job for your dealership. And this is really important, of course, to everybody. But, there's, we're all human right now, and especially during the COVID times, I've seen so many changes in like help, because there's people going out and getting tested, leaving the staff short on help. So naturally, the people that are writing up the claims and even wrenching, you're shorthanded. So it's more likely they're going to rush through things and miss things because they're trying to help the customer and get them out the door. So we have seen somewhat of an increase in some of our dealerships, and we just got to be that much sharper to be on top of it and help them out as well.
Agreed. And I want to talk about this a little bit because this kind of ties into what the roundtable meeting is. This is roundtable number 8, and it's the tire summit. And the tires are probably the biggest retention tool in the service industry. But also, more so than that, we kind of own that customer up until the end of that warranty period because they're going to come back to you to get that stuff handled, and they really have that choice after that. And when that warranty period is up is about the time they need tires. But it's also through that warranty period that if you got a dealer that is struggling with processing warranty and they're telling a customer that they can't do that under warranty for them, that's also something that's kind of minimizing the retention there as well. Do you have a contact person at each dealer that you go back to, or how does that work when you're missing information? I know you said you do a report so you can narrow down who those people are, but how do you resolve that to go ahead and close that claim?
Sure, Ed, that's a great question. We use like a fresh desk service where we send the information to the specific person, whether it's the manager, the writer. It's different in every dealership, okay? Because there's the smaller dealerships, you might have the manager handling everything, or you could have the ones that are larger that are going to have the advisor be responsible for each thing he writes, and then we CC the manager on it so they can see what's going on. We get the information if they're missing something for the ones before we can get the claim paid. And there's also there's times when they shouldn't have wrote the warranty claim. Maybe it's not a warranty claim, and maybe they just messed up, or they like I say, people make mistakes. Well, we send it back. We give them that information. We're able to track everything they send to us. And it's, like I said, it's a very diverse group of dealerships that we work with. Some of them are doing a great job as far as collecting the information. They're right on top of the techs, the advisors. They have a wonderful training program in place. And they just want to get the claims paid. And they're having trouble doing that. And then we have other levels of, everything from the smaller shop to the medium one where they might need a little more assistance and consulting. They might need, help with training more of their technicians or their advisors or whatever. And as you know, some of the smaller stores, it's hard to get, different levels of help in there. And you got to take what you can get. Just find a person that's ambitious enough and wants to learn, and we help them learn that process.
So we talked about quite a few things today. We talked about proper write-up. We talked about the 3 C's, clock time, had a success story, talked about some obstacles with audits. Let's talk about audits a little bit. Some dealers, you go into an audit or some manufacturers, you go into an audit from a performance standpoint, and some as a lottery. What kind of support do you offer a dealer when they're going through an audit, when they're chosen for an audit?
Yeah. Thanks, Ed. What we usually do is if it's a mail-in audit, electronic audit, as Dave calls it, we'll have them send that information to us so we can take another look at it and let them know that there's they might be missing something. Because quite often, honestly, the documentation is there somewhere. They just don't have it attached to the ticket. They don't know enough to go find it out of the file, whatever, and send it over to them. And we'll give them a good idea. Like everybody in this in our panel here has been saying, it's so important that everybody is responsible for doing their part of it, because sometimes, as you guys have all experienced, it could be too late sometimes. If you haven't done what you were supposed to do, but at least you've done it. You got a heads up. You know what's going to happen. You can go, tap that guy on the head or whatever and say, hey, look, man, you missed something here, and we can't be doing that. It's going to cost me, because It's never the $300 claims that they're looking for, right? I mean, it's usually the $5,000 and $6,000, sometimes $10,000 claims. They just don't want to pay them, and they're going to look for a way that they don't have to if you miss something, So we're just trying to do the best we can to avoid chargeback situations and make sure that the relationship between the manufacturer and the dealership is strong, and everybody gets what they have coming to them honestly.
truly warranty is like insurance. They're going to look for reasons not to pay it, if you've missed something or whatever. But really, we're dancing with their set of rules. And if we don't follow their rules, then they don't have to write us the check. So I totally get it. And obviously they want to look at the one that will make more of an impact to them. You mentioned that you service 285 rooftops. And so sometimes the manager handles everything at a smaller store. Sometimes that kind of constrains the store a bit. Or you tell us how that works and how your process works with a bigger store. Can you handle that large store? Can you handle that store that's got 50 techs in it and have to deal with 5 different people there at that store?
Yeah, sure, Ed. Yeah, it's that's a good question. We're like really work with a device set of individuals, and the smaller dealerships, like I said before, we're requiring more like hands-on type of help. Will take a lot more time, and that of course takes time away from our staff. And we're always looking for good people. We're training people, and as far as and our retention has been very strong this year. So with the COVID, it's slowed down to the point where, as far as the volume of warranty claims that come into WPI right now, we're sitting right about a 30% less than what we were a year ago, before the COVID came around. So I'd say probably most of our dealerships are it's really kind of hard to say. I'd say probably about 25% of them are larger stores, and then maybe a half of them might be a medium type of store, and a lot of them are part of the dealer groups, specifically the medium sized ones. And then of course there's still some of those smaller stores in the smaller towns that exist, and even those ones have been going to dealer groups now as well. So
right.
We talk to a lot of people. We work really hard, and I got a great staff here. I mean, they're just amazing what they do for our customers.
Absolutely. But yes, 285 stores, they have to be. Now, last question I have for you. We talked quite a bit about audit as well, and you're helping dealers that's going into them, coming out of them, probably picked up just as they completed one. What do you see maybe the number 1 or number 2 reasons of chargebacks in an audit?
Well, that's really depends on the manufacturer. After they get done with the audit, they'll send back the findings to us. We'll review the audit, and then if there's something there that we feel that they should fight, we'll go through that with them and on their behalf. And we do quite well in that, quite honestly. All the different manufacturers. I mean, a lot of the things that you folks have been mentioning here are hitting it. The one-use parts, the time signatures, one of our manufacturers is going through a lot of engine repairs, and they're really looking for the dotting the I's and crossing the T's on that stuff, and they're charging them back. And then we have an opportunity, if we can prove that we have some of these things that they're looking for, we can go back and get them paid again.
Yes, he's right about that. If you don't use all the correct components, they can charge you back for it.
Gene, it seems that we learn something every single roundtable, every single panel. So much knowledge here. I want to thank the subject matter experts, Sarah, Tom, Shon, Stephen, David, and of course, our good friend, Ed Roberts. Thank you so much, everybody. And everyone, you can learn more about warranty processing at their website, paidwarranty.com. And you can reach out to Stephen directly. His email and phone number are here on the screen. Also, in the virtual event program, you'll be able to find his information that links back to him, as well as all the panelists who are here with us today.
Thank you, Gene. Thank you, Ted. Appreciate you guys having us on. I think it was an impactful meeting.
It was.
Thanks, everybody.